Hi, and welcome to this week's From People Problems to Productivity. I'm Kirsten Ross Fogel, your family business and team performance pro. I've been doing this work for about 30 years, so connect with me if you need help with any of team productivity, conflict resolution, family business, any kind of thing like that. All right, so today's topic is trust, all things trust. I found myself talking about this a lot with clients lately, and so I thought I would share here. So I'm going to talk about trustworthiness, trust. How do you build trust? And trust buckets. Maybe a little bit about trusted advisors too. So, and again, as always, if you're seeing this, drop me a line. Let me know that you saw it live or throw me a replay in the comments, something like that. If you have questions, if there's topics that you would love to see me do, shoot me a DM or throw something in the comments. Happy to do topics that are of help for you. And if you want to grab time on my calendar, of course, you can always go to myimpactacademy.com/book call, the link that's right below me. All right. So let's talk about trust. So important. It's a really divided time. And I think a lot of people are feeling isolated and lonely and just kind of, not safe, maybe even. So trust. So the first thing I want to talk about is trusting. Are you a person, and this is just a self-awareness thing to think about how you build trust in your own relationships or give trust. Are you a person who trusts until? So you start a new relationship and say, like, I'm going to trust you until you show me that you don't deserve my trust. Maybe you pull back trust in bits and pieces. Or are you a person that lets people work at it? I'm going to be guarded and wait and build the trust as you earn it. There's no pros and cons, really. It's just kind of knowing yourself. This really came top of mind. We actually recently had a situation where someone absolutely broke trust, big time for us. And I was reviewing some of the information recently. And one of the things I told this person along the journey was, I'm a person who trusts until. And there were periods of time where I literally communicated, like, I'm trusting you with this piece, but there's something going awry with this piece. And so I was able to kind of identify, like, I'm trusting you here, but not with this part. And so, so I want to just kind of challenge you to think about, how do you trust? I just think it's a good thing to be aware of, because trust is so important. There's that great book by Stephen R. Covey, The Speed of Trust. If you haven't read it, grab it. Or just in a nutshell, here it is. Everything works better when you trust each other. Relationships that are filled with trust, it is speedier. You don't have to defend or explain or all those kinds of things. Any kind of friction in relationships just slows down the process of communicating and producing and working and all of that. So anyway, so pay attention to, do you trust until, or do you ask people to earn that trust and let it build up slowly? Once it's there, how much do you take it away if they don't continue to prove themselves? All right, so that's just a food for thought. Kind of think about it. The other thing is trustworthy. How trustworthy are you? Again, trust is so important in our relationships. Being trustworthy means, of course, words and actions matching. That's the optimal thing. Being a person who wants to maintain high integrity and be trustworthy, if you are really committed to that, you become very intentional with your words and your commitments. If you've allowed yourself to be loosey-goosey with your words and your commitments, you're not as trustworthy. And that's just fact. Sometimes it comes from people pleasing. You don't want to say no to somebody. And so you just start saying yes to everything because you don't, you want to be the savior, or you don't want people to think that you're self-centered or that you're mean for saying no. And so you just say yes to everything. And all of a sudden you have all this funkiness in your relationships because you're not following through because you don't have time. So, but if you're someone who becomes very committed to being trustworthy, it really makes you stop and think before you make a commitment. Because you really have to think, will I be able to follow through? I don't want to commit without. If you're a person who struggles with that, again, that people pleasing thing, there's lots of reasons why someone might be loosey goosey with their words. And some people just aren't that interested. Maybe they realize they're not interested in having high integrity. Some people are very intentional about not having high integrity. They can have kind of alternative objectives. They know they're stealing and they know that's not going to lead to trustworthiness, but that's their objective. But in general, in business and in family business, I think we all want to be trustworthy. And so usually it's really a mindset thing, or again, I see it very often in people pleasing, which ironically people are saying like, I want everyone to like me. I want everyone to feel happy. And then what that often leads to is being wiggly with your words. So being trustworthy, try it if you've been challenged with this, keeping your commitments. Commit to being trustworthy, keeping your word, which will, again, here's a couple strategies too, to saying no when you need to. One, buy yourself time. Don't say yes to anything immediately. Let people know. I mean, you should be checking anyway. I need to check my calendar. I need to check my list of priorities. I need to check my kid's calendar. I need to check with my partner. So just make a rule that you're never going to say yes immediately, to buy yourself that time. If you have a person in your life, like a spouse, a partner, coworker, who can help you say no appropriately, check with that person and make sure whether, ask them for their input. Should this be a yes or a no? But anyway, so be trustworthy, be committed to following through on your word. If you say it, mean it, do it. If something goes awry and you weren't able to follow through, or there ends up being a snafu after the fact, just clean it up. You can still maintain your trustworthiness if you do that. It's not always comfortable doing cleanup conversations, but trustworthiness is so important and it's worth it. Go through the discomfort, but avoid having that issue by saying yes and no appropriately. All right. Now I want to talk about trust buckets. So this is a term I've come up with, and anyone who's coached with me has probably heard me use the term, or like when I speak, a lot of times I use this term. But so to me, I'm just so visual. And so in relationships, I visual a bucket, or like a container, that in relationships where there's high trust, the trust bucket is full. And if we don't have a lot of trust, the trust bucket's empty. And I love this visual. And again, I use it with my clients because I think about the investment that it takes to fill a trust bucket. When we meet someone new, I mean, even if we're a person who trusts until, it might not be a totally chock full trust bucket, but it takes an investment in relationships to really build good trust buckets. And in organizations, what can happen, what I see all the time, and especially when there's been a lot more virtual work, when we aren't connected as humans, when we're forgetting that other person or that other department that maybe you don't know as humans, we forget sometimes that we're all working towards the same goals. And then when processes fail or have clunkiness or things just go awry, what we humans tend to do is not give grace. We tend to fill in the blanks with negative assumptions or anger assumptions. I always say we never fill them in with sunshine and butterflies when we don't know one another. So when our trust buckets are empty or less full with others, we have there's less potential that we are going to give grace and have positive assumptions. So I always ask my clients to think about this illustration. So let's say you're have a meeting planned, a lunch meeting planned, and the person that you're supposed to meet is 20 minutes late and they're still not there. All right. So if you don't have a full trust bucket with this person, again, maybe it's your first time meeting them, so you don't really know much about them yet, or you've had negative experiences with them before. You trusted until, and now the trust bucket's kind of empty. Some things have gone awry. If that person's late, where does your mind go? Your mind goes to, they're disrespecting me. They don't care about my time. They're probably not even going to show. Your mind can go all kinds of places with the assumption of why this person hasn't been on time. Now think about the friend that you've had forever, the full trust bucket. You've known them for 10 years. They've never been late. Or maybe they're a person who's often late, but you know that their intentions are good and it's not about you. Well, you're making that assumption that it's not about you. Again, so where does your mind go with that instance? I hope something didn't happen. This is so odd. What could be going on, right? We give grace. We have a full trust bucket. And so we trust and assume that something must be going awry and it doesn't have anything to do with us. They're not disrespecting us. There's just something happening. We begin to worry about their safety. So that's what a full trust bucket looks like. In organizations, again, between individuals or teams, when we need to rely on one another to get the work done, it's really important to have full trust buckets. Because, like I said, when things go awry, when challenges happen, when processes are clunky, when a deadline isn't met, when our trust buckets are empty, we ignite friction over those things because our assumptions go to, they're trying to make my job harder. They don't care about this circumstance. They don't care about our customers. They're not good at their jobs. I've heard it all. You probably have too. What I know because of the work that I do is rarely are those negative assumptions true. Often, like I said, it is processes that are failing or snafus that are happening that are out of someone's control. How many times, if you work in an organization that has 3 shifts, how often do you hear day shift complaining about midnight shift? Midnight shift never does anything. They leave all the work for day shift. And second shift saying the same thing about first shift. So again, these employees don't cross paths. And so when there are snafus, their minds go to that negative assumption of they're making my work harder, they're not working hard, they're lazy, all those kinds of things. So what does this tell us? As leaders in organizations, we need to create opportunities and encourage employees to have full trust buckets. In general, people want to do a good job. So let's just work from the assumption that everyone wants to do that good job and that it's just things out of everyone's control that are going awry. And let's build those trust buckets so that people can lock arms and problem solve together instead of building friction between one another. In virtual world, it's become a little harder. We just have to be more intentional. So I have a lot of my clients trying to replicate, back in the day, we could walk down the hall and just high five someone or pop into their office and have a quick, chat and catch up. We were filling our trust buckets. That's a human sitting in that office. I see them. I know about their kids. I know about their weekend. I know what's going on in their world. I know they care about the job. So absent that, you want to try to create that. So, and this can happen, of course, if your employees are working across the country from one another too. So create opportunities, even in structured meetings where there's some opportunity to connect as people. You can do fun icebreaker kinds of things. Another thing that I think is helpful is to set, we can call it coffee room time or chat time or whatever you want to call it. You can have fun with it or name it whatever has meaning for your organization. But if you're all virtual or have team members across the globe, have times where you're sitting and working, but with a video like this up and open, where someone can see that it's open, and can just pop in. So they can just pop in, and it's a way to be available for those ad hoc conversations, just a way virtually to recreate that. So important. If you are connected and together in meetings, still find ways to allow people to connect in your meetings, have lunch together. Again, just help people remember that it's other humans that are working in the department and you all have common goals. I also love process improvement. I'm an efficiency junkie. Anyone who knows me knows that. And I think engaging in process improvement, pulling people together from different departments, different areas of your business helps you. I always call it the double whammy effect. You get improved processes. You have people understanding more clearly what is involved with the process where you're relying on each other across departments. Almost always the assumption is that the work is way easier in the other department and takes a lot less time than what they learn when we bring people together. And then again, the other thing is we fill those trust buckets because people meet one another. I could give you story after story of times when there's high friction between employees or teams and that I bring them together. Sometimes it's an hour and a half. and we have multiple aha moments happening, and clarity and just connecting and trust buckets filling and teams coming together to feel more engaged and work better together. So today's topic is all about trust. So for just a quick recap, how do you trust? Do you trust until, or do you help people? Do you wait until people prove themselves and slowly build their trust buckets? How trustworthy are you? Do your words and actions match? When they don't, do you do the cleanup necessary so that you can be trustworthy? And take a look at your relationships. How full are your trust buckets? How full are your trust buckets with others? And how full is your trust bucket with them? Let's all work to be trustworthy. Trust where it's should be, like give trust appropriately, we'll call it. And then let's fill those trust buckets so we can all work well together. All right. Thanks for joining me. I'm Kirsten Rouse Vogel, again, your team performance pro and family business coach. Reach out myimpactacademy.com/book call if you'd like to grab 30 minutes on my calendar to see how I can help. You can always go to my website, focusforwardcoaching.com. And again, thank you so much for joining. Throw me your questions and thanks for watching. All right. Take care. Bye.